Yeah.
Alright. So we are here at the Burbank Park. It's currently 4:12. Today's date is the 23rd of February. And this is Coach Romero that we're going to be interviewing today. Now, for the first question is, what do you believe causes a gender pay gap?
Okay. So this whole topic is really interesting to me because I was an athlete and never really considered going pro, but I always knew that there was like a big disparity in wage. Like I never really looked into it till you asked me like about all this. I honestly don't know why they feel like women are less, like their work just isn't worth as much almost. Yeah, like it's almost like they feel like, oh, women aren't as good as men, so they don't need to make as much money for playing a sport. That's almost how I feel about it. And I don't know if it's because all the CEOs of these leagues are men and all the guys right underneath them are men. And so I don't know. I wanted to look up, after I read all your questions, I wanted to go and do more research and figure out, like, are these all men, or are there women on these boards who make this decision? Like, what goes into, like, the amount of money that women make versus men? So these questions were really good, and it made me want to dig in and just kind of find more information about it. So I guess it just comes down to me, like, they think women are less valuable, so they make less money. That's what I think causes it.
And for the second question, why do you think men are being paid more than women in sport?
Okay. Honestly, I think the men's leagues, they're longer. Like the basketball season for men is like 8 months, whereas the WNBA is only 4 months. So I think their seasons are longer. They get more publicity. You never see, like, when you're watching TV, you never see, like, oh, this women's soccer game is going to be on Sunday night. You never, ever see it. You never see about the WNBA. You never see about, unless it's like Serena Williams, like, you'll see Serena. But in tennis, they don't really have that pay gap anymore. They've pretty much closed it. So I think there's just a lot more advertising that goes into it. There's a lot more publicity in it. So therefore, they're bringing in more money because they're getting more people to the games, because more people know about the games. So I think as long as you're putting that much more effort and money into advertising and that much more effort into promotions, you're going to have that much larger of a turnaround as far as your profit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like for women's, you never hear when a women's game is going to be, unless it's like the Final Four, and that's college. So that's how I look at that.
Question number 3, what do you think heads of sport corporations are doing to minimize the gender pay gap in sports?
I think the conversations are finally starting. I think as far as basketball, they're never going to be equal. The women's pay will never be equal to the men's pay. Like I said, with tennis, they pretty much, it's the Wimbledon winner for men who wins the exact same amount of money as the women who wins Wimbledon. So to me, that's the same. I know as far as soccer, like I'm a big soccer fan, so I've been following, like the women are considering going on strike because the wage disparity for soccer is unbelievable. Like some women's soccer players only make like $6,000 a year to be a professional soccer player, whereas like the average man makes $200,000 a year to play the same game on the same size field, same amount of time. It's crazy. But I know those conversations are happening, especially with the success of the women's national team. They're really good. The men never make it to the World Cup. The men never make it to the Olympics because they can't get through those playoff rounds to even get there. So I think with soccer, you're going to start to see that bridge, like that gap is going to close. Let me see if I added anything else when I was talking about that. Heads of corporations doing a minimize gap. Oh, what they can do, and me and some friends were kind of bouncing this around because I've kind of shared this. A lot of my friends are athletes too, and I've kind of shared what we're doing with them. And if you look at a team like Dallas has the WNBA team and an NBA team, if they maybe were to like offer like paired season tickets, like you buy your season tickets and you get to go to all the men's games and all the women's games, they would have more fans at the women's games because they already have the tickets. So even if they gave them to like their next door neighbor, there's still people in the seats. Yeah, somebody's there. And I think if you advertise it like that, season tickets for both of these, like this is like a family of teams as opposed to it being the men's, and we're going to really advertise them. Oh, and by the way, we have a WNBA team too. If you like pair them and you make it like a family, you could do that with soccer. You could do that with all the cities who have more than one team. I think they would make a lot more money, and you'd be able to see more profit coming from the women's side to allow raises for the women.
And question number 4. Some people believe that men are better negotiators than women. What do you think is to blame for this? The women who can't negotiate, or the bosses who don't negotiate equally?
I didn't like this question. I don't think anybody's at fault. I think with this type of woman who is a professional athlete, she's like dominant. She's probably got a pretty strong personality.
Right.
She can probably negotiate her own salary if it's even on the table to be negotiated. I don't think it's that they can't negotiate, like because they're just weak and timid and like all women are just like really soft. That's not the case at all. I think there's just only, even if you're super dominant personality, like, and you can come out and say, I deserve more money for this. If there's no money there, they can't give it to you, or they can't give it to everyone, so they don't give it to you either. So I don't know how that, I think the negotiations just at least need to be heard. And I think the women are doing a good job of voicing it, like putting out that they might go on strike, that they're not going to play unless we can even sit down and talk about it. So no one's to blame. At the end of the day, it's about money for the players and for the CEOs and for the league. So everybody's trying to get the most.
Question number 5. Have you ever experienced the pay gap? If you have, can you elaborate? If not, have you known anybody who has experienced it?
You're talking about like gender-wise?
Gender-wise.
Okay. I have not. Luckily, teachers, none of us make money. So for teachers, for our profession, it's not. There's no pay gap as far as gender. I think it exists in the corporate world. I think like as you move up, like if you work for like a large bank or even like doctors and big CEOs and whatnot, I think that probably gets more tricky as far as like what women make. Yeah, maybe like surgeons. They might have them, but no, I mean, just because I've never experienced it, I definitely know that it still exists. Even if you only look at it from the professional sports side, it obviously exists in that, so.
Okay, for question number 6, do you believe that the media is presenting the gender pay gap in professional sports fairly?
No, they are not. I think they only discuss it when the women are making a big deal about it. So like how the soccer team is threatening to go on strike, then ESPN will talk about it. But otherwise they don't discuss that the basketball players are having to go to Europe to make more money just to supplement for the lack of money that they make in the WNBA. Like they have to go play somewhere else in the off season to make money. They should be making enough money here as a professional athlete in America. If you look at the guys, they don't have to go play overseas to make money. They make plenty of money during the season. So I think, I just feel like the media could do a better job of, I think they are well represented at female games, but they don't discuss the pay
as much exposure.
Right. Yeah, I don't think the average American knows the difference in pay for professional athletes. I don't know that they care, but I don't think they know.
For number 7, why do you believe there is a higher demand for men in professional sports rather than women?
So I saw this question and I thought, well, because there's more teams, but I wrote on your paper, this is how many men's teams there are and how many women's teams there are. So since the camera is not on your numbers, there are like 144 possible professional men's teams in the United States. That's NBA, NFL, Major League Soccer, NHL, and Major League Baseball. Just the 5. That's not golf. That's not any individual sports. The main 5. 144 professional teams. For women, we have the WNBA, soccer, softball, like fast pitch, which would be like kind of like the equivalent to baseball, and women's hockey. There are only 36 professional teams. So there's a higher demand. There's also 3 or 4 times as many sports. I mean, there's many teams to play for, so the demand is higher. But then if you look at colleges, for every guys team, there's a girls team. So for every, like LSU has boys and girls basketball, they have boys and girls track, whatever that, you know. So in college, you're even. In middle school, high school, college, there's the same number of sports. So there should be the same number of athletes, because not every guy goes pro, but every female doesn't want to go pro. But if they wanted to, it's not even close to the same opportunity. Does that make sense? Like if you 144 to 36, you don't stand a chance. So.
For question 8, why do you believe sport corporations invest more time and money into the quality of an entire men's sports franchise rather than women's?
I don't know. Like, I put that as my answer. I don't know. I think my only thought is that they've already seen the profit from the men. So they'll continue to pour money into something that they've already seen the return. With women, you're kind of putting yourself out there. Like to say, we're going to invest $2 million into advertising for this WNBA team. Without really, we don't know that we're going to get fans. We don't know if people are going to show up. We could just be losing $2 million. Like, I think they already know the return is there for the men. They've already seen it. They get those profits every night. I think it's a big risk for them. But I think if they get into advertising correctly and if they do it smart, they'll be able to expose these female teams and get people to fill the stadiums, and they'll ultimately make money. I think also, like with companies allowing professional athletes to be like the face, like how you have more women who are doing like Nike commercials. You have like Serena Williams does Nike commercials, and you have Candace Parker does Adidas commercials. Like exposing them like that lets little girls see, like they have a role model who's representing an entire brand. It's not just Michael Jordan. It's not just LeBron. It's not just, you know, it's not just the men. There are women athletes representing entire brands, and even doing modeling, doing, you know, other things besides just, they could be like makeup, you know, they could be CoverGirl spokespeople, you know, they're out there now. So I think they're doing a better job of exposing female athletes as more than just like these like ugly tomboys who are just like, all they do is play basketball and they're not really good for anything else. I think they're doing a lot more of like showing their personality. So it's coming along. It's a lot further than it was when I was in school. So.
For question 9, according to various sources, usually men have higher opportunities to play professional sports than women. Why do you believe that is?
I kind of touched on that with that other one. They have an opportunity because there are more opportunities. Yeah, there's a ton more teams. So yeah, they do have a higher opportunity because there are more teams.
Question 10. Does women having the ability to get pregnant or having a menstrual cycle on top of being susceptible to injury affect their salaries?
No. Being a woman should not affect your salary. I don't feel like, we're also not looking at, these women are like professionals. They're classically trained. They treat their bodies like, you know, they treat them like gold. That's their moneymaker. They take care of their bodies. So if they get pregnant, I think very similar, like the league would just need to set up like a maternity leave system, just like any other corporation or any other business has. You either get 6 weeks or whatever time to do your maternity leave, and whether it be a % of your pay or however they decide to work it out. There should be some type of system where they get maternity leave, but then you've got to train and you've got to get back to that elite status and earn your way back onto the team. It's not we're not necessarily going to save your spot. You know, it's there if you are going to train and you try to come back, but you know, you got to be good enough to get back in that position. I know, like Sydney Leroux plays professional soccer, and she just had a kid. I don't know if she's trying to come back or not. You know, that's a lot of work to get your body back in the physical shape. But that's even like men who tear their ACL or they have to have a shoulder surgery. They don't get put out of the league. They don't necessarily lose their spot, or they don't get paid less because they got injured. I think maternity leave and all that stuff can go right along with how they treat a man who gets injured or how they treat a man who gets injured.
Question 11. Do you believe the gender pay gap is increasing?